Now, we're not going to spend the night talking about Prince Philip, not because he isn't an important figure, because he doesn't represent a phenomenal generation, but because we've all heard an awful lot over the past few days. That said, two quick things I wanted to mention at the start. First, it's nice to hear a son speak as warmly about his father, even if it's as weird as Prince Harry, and about a member of the royal family whose service was absolute, but fairly obviously lived in a gilded cage for the best part of the last few decades.
My dear Papa was a very special person who, I think above all else, would have been amazed by the reaction and the touching things that have been said about him. And from that point of view, we are, my family, deeply grateful for all that. It will sustain us in this particular loss and at this particularly sad time.
Okay, I'll say it. A 72-year-old saying Papa. Anyway, I get it. I don't want to be the one who's going to be not respectful at this time. The Prime Minister quite correctly talked about how this bloke at his very heart was about service and comes from the greatest generation of people that have ever walked the earth. These were people who were willing to go to other parts of the planet to be able to repel the things that would have changed us for the worse forever, saving millions of lives after millions of lives had been lost in their tyranny.
His presence and service are reassurance, a reminder of the stability we so often need in a world that can be so uncertain. With his passing, we say farewell to another of the greatest generation, the generation that defied tyranny, that won a peace and built a liberal world order that protects and favours freedom.
Bloody oath, perfectly said. But to give us an idea of how we have gone from a generation of service to sooks, I want to show you the reaction to adversity 2021 style. Firstly, Instagram. The social media website was apparently down for a few hours, so people decided to have one heck of a sook, including this person who said, "Try not to freak out right now, but this is totes ridic. I was about to do a live on the gram, short for Instagram, cute, ha 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 ha, about being a boss babe CEO, like gets me ready in the morning, and I was setting up my ring light and I noticed you were totally down. Fix this." A generation that went from service to sooks in one lifetime. And then there was the Vodafone mobile phone network that went down for the best part of all day on Friday. Not fun, but let's compare the pair. While, yes, it was difficult if you were somebody who was obviously needing a mobile phone for business, everyone else settled down, fully panicked. This was how some people jumped on the internet, presumably using some other technology to carry on about this. From service to sooks, one lifetime. It's been very difficult to try and sell my car with no Facebook. I'm not paying the next bill, so don't even think about sending it. Otherwise, the paper bill will be in the bin where it belongs. I can't even message my dad without telling him where I am. The train Wi-Fi is running out. I can't call anyone. Had to resort to watching the guy putting the new roast chickens up at a local Coles while piggybacking off their Wi-Fi because my Vodafone connection was dead all day. Finally back now. Maybe I should buy something. Oh, it continues. I just discovered that without mobile data, you cannot make an FPOS payment with your phone. And then somebody who actually said, "Why did you change your gay pride logo at a time of operational crisis?" Seriously. You want to know why this generation is the sooks that they are? Because we don't value the service of those who served in World War II anymore. We don't get what their sacrifice represented and about how there was a genuine fork in the road and we ended up choosing the right path. And people were willing to gamble their life to be able to achieve that right path. Why do I say that we don't value it? Because literally, on Anzac Day in Melbourne this year, there's a good chance 100,000 people will be able to fill the MCG but they will limit the number of people who can physically march on Anzac Day, and they are telling people that it's first in, first served for 4,000 spots at the dawn service at 4 a.m. So if the logic is that we have to limit the number of people who can go to an Anzac Day march because, presumably, the people who would participate in it are so frail, if the same people bought a ticket to the football later that day, completely okay. This is what I'm talking about. It's more complicated, but it matters. We have strayed, and we will continue to stray, and at times in probably my lifetime, and most definitely my kids' lifetime, there will be some level of contempt for the people who saved this nation. Remember, there was a time when literally our own country was bombed by a potentially invading force. That would not have been a pleasant life to live under the Imperial Japanese as they were, or to see the Nazis move all the way through Europe and potentially into other parts of the planet. These aren't things that you just learn about in history, or that Quentin Tarantino gets to make an alternative ending to in one of his movies. This is the greatest threat that the West ever faced. And the generation of Prince Philip, they stood up. The generation today that we would expect to stand up if a similar threat happened, they're talking about Facebook. They're talking about Instagram, and they're talking about not being able to surf the internet on their mobile phone for just one day. We can never forget the important service of World War II. And sadly, as we start to physically lose touch with those that have served, I get a feeling it's going to be like World War I, where you're going to roughly know something about the Somme, you're going to roughly know something about the Western Front, you're going to roughly know something about Gallipoli. But another example about the contempt that we have for the greatest generation is that demographers these days, the people who talk about millennials and Gen Xers and baby boomers, do you know that what they refer to the people who actually fought the Second World War as? The silent generation. Not joking. Silent generation. Because apparently they were silent to things like racial and environmental justice. They were silent on matters to do with gender and sexuality. What bullshit. There must be maximum pressure on Victoria to have as open a commemoration of Anzac Day as they would be willing to have about a football game. And if they are able to get away with not having that open commemoration, it's a sign of Australia we should be pretty afraid of. One that is going to devalue Anzac Day in the long run. One that is going to be contemptuous of people's service. But we see this everywhere. You can't possibly have a national day on the 26th of January, despite the fact that people sit in the very modernity that is only possible because of the events in and around that particular day. Not a day without problems. Not a history without conflict. Not advancement without great suffering. But I find it amazing that people who are able to sit in the freedom that was fought for by others and live in the modernity that is only possible because of the societies that have been built up over the past few hundred years, that they have no idea where this stuff came from. They don't care. And they think it just goes on forever. Well, it doesn't. And it won't. Just ask the Romans, how's their empire going?